So my name is Kevin Brown. I'm the CTO for Informix, and my role is to help set the strategy for our product line. The product line that I'm specifically involved with is Informix Relational Database. And most recently, I've been working on IoT opportunities for our database. The product is for anyone that needs a relational database, but I would say it probably goes now more beyond that. We've got a lot of customers that are using us for very specific operations. The reason I'm here at the conference is to talk about how well Informix fits in IoT applications, in Internet of Things applications. And that really is where our focus is today for people that need to collect data from sensors and perhaps in very high frequencies, and then also be able to do the analytics on that data.
And just to drill a bit more into who the customers are, in terms of startup, large enterprise, international business, I mean, who really is the product best suited for?
Well, really, it's for all of those, and that's one of the interesting things about Informix is that we have an extremely wide range of customers that would use our products. Traditionally, we've been an enterprise class database used by very large retail chains, by banks, many different markets. And but one of the things that we've been concentrating on is the ability to use our database without in a hands-free environment. And because of that, we've been moving more and more toward the smaller end of the scale. And at this point, we're probably have almost as many people using us in an embedded environment as we do in a enterprise environment. So we really do run the gamut from extremely tiny Quark, Atom sort of chipsets, ARM chipsets, all the way up to the, tens, hundreds of core systems.
What are some of the special challenges that come with Internet of Things devices, applications, etc., that Informix is best suited to meet?
So first, I would say it's the ability to capture data as it's being generated by these devices. The amount of data that you get with the Internet of Things is enormous, and you need to have a database that can capture that data in real time. And one of the unique features of Informix is the ability to capture data as it streams out of these devices directly into a database. Most databases, in fact, none of the other relational databases can do this. We can capture it even if it's being generated at 50 hertz, 60 hertz, 50 or 60 records a second. And we can do this for not just tens of sensors, we can do this for millions of sensors. We've done benchmarks all the way up to 100 million devices coming into Informix, both handling that data at the edge, where we have smaller devices, or in the cloud, where we might scale out and use many servers to handle that load.
Who are the early adopters of the Internet of Things features?
The early adopters, well, really, there's a lot of companies that are focused on the Internet of Things. So it's anything from smarter house, smarter home application providers, energy providers. You name it. There are Internet of Things IoT applications. We've talked to railroads. We've talked to governments. We've talked to remote sensing, telco, banking. I don't know a single industry, in fact, that would not have some need for an Internet of Things.
Here we've got a lot of startups. And a lot of folks who are beginning to consider what their scalability models are going to be are looking at things like AWS and the database services that are offered by now Microsoft and Oracle as well. How do you play in that situation specifically for the startup entrepreneur, recently funded entrepreneur?
Well, so Informix does have a service called Bluemix, or I guess you would call it a marketplace. And within Bluemix, you're able to create or use the services that are already there. And that's where we're getting a lot of traction with these startups. They're able to use our service. We have a time series service, we have an IoT foundation service, we have lots of analytics services, and people can take these services, compose them together to solve whatever the applications requires. And so really that is the way that we're going to compete. It makes it very, very simple. A few clicks and you've got the ability to store, capture data, take new devices online as they become available. It's really a great way to get started with the Internet of Things.
Tell me something about location-based services and other data that comes from wearables.
Yeah, so one of the important things with wearables is that people typically think of the Internet of Things as a time series problem. They think of it as, I have a device, it's generating data, and the main thing that I need to capture is this time-stamped data as it's coming out of the device. But when you think about wearables, one of the other important qualities is your location, right? And it's not just location, it's time plus location. It's a spatial temporal problem. And the way that most companies would go about solving a spatial temporal problem where you sometimes need to access the data by time, sometimes by space, you would end up storing the data twice. It becomes very expensive, especially if you're talking about millions of devices. Storage can probably be your number one problem. Not to mention just the sheer volume causes your queries to run very slow. Informix solves this with some unique technology, some technology that came out of our research department, which no one else has, that really gives you spatial temporal indexing, very quick lookups, very compact representation of the data, so that it can keep your costs down in the cloud, as well as run these queries extremely quickly. So now you don't have to sort of wonder whether I should phrase my query as a spatial query or as a temporal query, but you can do it as a spatial temporal query and it'll run great.
Well, that's really exciting stuff. Thank you very much for taking some time to speak with the Silent Intelligence.
Sure, thank you.